Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back indeed, because I've been a few weeks off for the summer holidays with the family and stuff, and I've got a ton of reading done. I don't recall reading so much over the holidays like this year, but I suppose that's the benefit of spending a few weeks by myself. And I'm going to start my new sort of review until the series of reviews until the end of the year with Dragons of Dwarven Depths, which is the first volume on the Lost Chronicles of the Dragonlance. Dragonlance, with all its imperfections, it's a series that holds a very special place in my heart because it's the first fantasy series I've read as a teenager, and it's linked up to the Dungeons and Dragons RPG, which I played the hell out in my teen years. Therefore, I acknowledge that it's far from perfect, but I really enjoy it, and I've reread it a few times. So, Dragons of Dwarven Depths is the first book in in the trilogy, which addresses a series of events that take place off page in the original Chronicles of the Dragonlance published back in the 80s. Now, this book I think was published around 2006, so it's a good 20 years after the events of Chronicles, and like I said, it fills in the events that happen off page. So I really enjoyed going back to these characters and finding out what happened or how events unravel in between the three books of Chronicles. So it was a great opportunity to go back to these characters and spend a bit more time with characters that got more of a supporting cast role, such as the barbarian Ruberwin or the dwarf Flint Fireforge. So that was great, and I really enjoyed going back to this set of characters and their adventures. However, there are plenty things wrong with this book that I have to address. So, I did enjoy it, but we need to talk about the editing. The editing is absolutely poor and is unforgivable. In this edition, there are repeated words, misspelled words, wrong words. It is atrocious. I've read independent authors with much better editing than this. This is just unacceptable at a professional level. I have to say it. I have to call it like it is. Now, some of the criticisms I can level at the writing is that this book was written a good 20 years after the peaks or the pinnacle of the series, Chronicles and Legends. So Weis and Hickman are writing these characters with the benefit of hindsight. And some of the interactions between them are not consistent with the internal chronology of the events in the series. So this is just shortly after book one, where the characters that have sort of just met and they're still trying to collaborate and work together. But in this book, that sort of friction that they had in the original series is almost gone. It's like, how they would be a few more years down the road in the events of the series. So that was a little bit inconsistent, my opinion. And also, Weis and Hickman took the opportunity in this first book to foreshadow events that take place in second, third book of Chronicles, which I suppose it's great, and I suppose it serves as a bit of fun support. That's not the word I'm looking for. But anyway, fun service. That's what I wanted to say. Another aspect that I had a bit of an issue with is that I would assume that these books were written for the established fan base. I think it's very unlikely that anyone will take this book as their first step into the world of Dragonlance. Don't get me wrong. There may be someone out there that walks into a bookstore and picks this book. could happen, right? But that's going to be the minority of your reader base. Therefore, there are many or several instances of info dump that could have been saved because we know these characters, we know this world, we know this series, and there is no need to re-explain certain aspects of the world building. That was a bit unnecessary. Also, like I've talked about the editing from a ortho typographical aspect, but I think there should also have been some editing of the writing. And Weis and Hickman were never authors by, well, they become authors by trade, but not by training. They were game designers and ended up writing Chronicles and Legends, and they were great. But I think you can tell here, at one point in the book, we are like 200, 250, maybe even 300 pages into the story. We go to the Dwarf Kingdom and we get a massive info dump on the 7 or 8 different dwarvish clans and the politics between them. And it just takes away from the narrative tension to them. In order for events to carry on and unfold, we need to understand the politics of the Dwarven Kingdom. And here we go. We get an explanation of the 7 or 8 different clans and where do they stand and what their opinions are and what the warring factions are. And it feels really shoehorned in order for the reader to, but not really understand, because they explain to you so much in a few pages that you kind of get lost, because all these Dwarven clans have got similar names and stuff. And it's just a little bit tedious in order for you to understand what's going on and for things to carry on. Maybe a different decision could have been made. I don't know. Also, if you know the series, this book is all about finding the Hammer of Kharas as this mythical artifact needed to forge the Dragonlances. But if you read Chronicles, which most of the readers of this book would have done, you know that the Hammer of Kharas becomes totally unnecessary in the main series. So what's the point of this? I don't quite know. So I think maybe they could have taken a different approach with the book. It felt a little bit anticlimactic, because you're going to have this whole quest for this artifact that we know is going to be totally useless later on. But anyway, those are my thoughts and my opinions. This is what I had for today. Let me know what you think. Am I far off the mark, or am I closer to what you think? Please let me know in the comments below. Take loads and loads of care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.